Hello. Came back for another video. So this is working out so much better for me. So I'm hoping those of you that end up watching find these informative too. The one thing when you run a mental health blog and some mental health pages, and you yourself live with depression, what I realized is that it's really difficult for me to be consistent with going live because there are days when I simply can't. There are days when I'm struggling with my depression, and showing up for others is just not something I can do. So I think and hope that this YouTube channel will be a better way for me to get my message out and encourage others and empower you all to embrace your mental health struggles and embrace any mental illness that you live with, and know that it's not anything to be ashamed of, and know that it's not something to be afraid of, and that the more you know, the stronger you'll be, and the better you can manage your depression or anxiety or whatever it is that you live with. So here I am today again. I want to talk a little bit about the importance of ending mental health stigma. So I'm actually headed to the pool in a little bit. It's a little chilly, but I'm going to go try and hop in the hot tub today since I have some time. So that's why I got my bathing suit on and I look like, but hopefully you don't care about that. So, okay. So when I started my blog, my main purpose was to write about mental illness and mental health, and try to end the stigma that society still holds to mental illness. It is probably my biggest passion to do everything I can to end that stigma. I have a friend who just lost a dear friend to suicide, and every time I hear of someone dying by suicide, it just crushes my soul. I just think that we have still a lot of work to do to get people the help they need and deserve, and to end stigma so that we talk about mental illness in the same way we talk about physical illness. So society still holds such a large stigma against mental illness, and we're getting better. We're talking about it more. There's more people like me who share their stories. We have more people in the media speaking out about their struggles. We've had some high-level stars who have died by suicide in recent years. One of the more recent ones is, Kate Spade, the designer, and then the food guy, I forget his name. Anyway, two people who clearly had money to get any resources they needed, and it still wasn't enough. So we still have a lot of work to do to help defeat loss of life to mental illness. So I think one way we need to do that is we need to start recognizing the brain as the important organ that it is, right? So our brain is an organ, just like the heart and the lungs and the kidney and the pancreas and the liver. All these are organs, and our brain is an organ too. Yet when our brain gets sick, there is just this stigma that people are afraid to talk about it, or afraid to admit it, or afraid to get professional help. Or maybe they aren't afraid, but they don't have access to those services, right? Because our insurance, our health insurance providers clearly do not treat the brain with the same respect as all the other organs. Or if they did, then going to the psychiatrist would be the same type of copay as going to your general doctor, right? So most of us have, if you have health insurance, you have a copay. I've had it as cheap as $15 and as much as $50, but it ranges where it's less than what you would pay for the appointment. But most psychiatrists, even if it's in your insurance, it still costs a lot, and it's very hard to find psychiatrists in a lot of insurance. A lot of insurance coverages don't have mental health coverage or don't have good mental health coverage, right? So we need to get to the point where our society as a whole sees the brain as the important organ it is, right? So I mean, of course, if there's another brain illness, neurology, or like seizures or a tumor, any of those get the same respect, right? You see a specialist for those. But for some reason, a psychiatrist is still not always considered a specialist. It's, a different category on its own. It's under mental health coverage instead of physical health coverage. And that's the point I'm making. It needs to be treated the same. Because when you have a mental illness, it is an illness in your brain, right? So it is a physical illness because there's something in your brain that's not working right. That needs to be adjusted. So that's where I think we need to get to in society, is realizing that the brain is important. The brain controls every other organ, right? So if our brain's not working right because we're so depressed or we're so anxious, we feel it in other parts of our bodies, right? I mean, if you live with depression or anxiety or another mental illness, you know when your brain is not working right because of your mental illness, the rest of your body starts to feel it, right? If you have anxiety, sometimes your heart starts racing, you get stomach pains. When you're depressed, everything feels heavy. There's a number of symptoms that are correlated and connected. So we need to get to the point where we give the brain the importance it needs, right? Okay, so how does stigma hurt lives, right? We need to end the stigma to save lives. If we didn't have the stigma, with the stigma, people aren't always honest about their struggles, right? We still hide our struggles. I don't. I'm kind of way out there, probably maybe too out there if there is such a thing. But a lot of people who struggle with depression or anxiety hide it, or they're afraid to talk about it. And I know this because I'm so open that I have had people come to me and start talking to me about their struggles, saying, I've really never talked to anybody about this, but you're so open, I felt comfortable talking to you about it. So people are afraid to be honest about their struggles because they're afraid of repercussions, right? They're afraid of possibly losing their job. They're afraid of losing friends. They're afraid of what people will think. They're afraid people will think they aren't strong or they're weak. All these things that aren't true, right? That go through your mind. So, and we got to get to the point where it's okay to take a sick day. I think it's okay to take a sick day if you're feeling depressed or anxious now, but how many people call in and say, oh, I'm not coming to work today because my depression is really bad? It needs to be okay to do that. Just like, oh, I can't come into work today because I think I have the flu. Whatever it is, or my diabetes is off, whatever it is, people call in and it should just be okay if you have to give a reason. So, another problem with the stigma is people who maybe need help and don't get help, a lot of times they start self-medicating. So you have a lot of people dealing with depression and anxiety who start drinking or smoking pot a lot or go to other drugs to self-medicate to either bring them up out of the depression or to numb the hurt that they're feeling that's causing the depression, or to calm their nerves down with the anxiety. Whatever it is, when we have the stigma and people aren't getting the help they need, there's a higher risk that they're going to self-medicate. So that is another reason we need to get those resources out there and get people to open up about their struggles so we can help them and support them any way they need to. So we need to get enough providers. I talked about the insurance a little bit earlier, but we need to have more providers. We just don't have enough mental health resources that we need. There's a wait list at most psychiatrists. There's wait lists for therapists. It'd be nice if we had more people willing to go into the profession. And in order to go into that profession, I think we need to acknowledge those professionals with higher wages. Mental health doesn't get paid what it deserves. So we need to figure out a way to put them on a level of importance that they are. So So yeah, so we just need to, I'm trying to look up my notes of what I said. So, and then, okay, so when people don't get the help they need, also, not only do they self-medicate, that's what leads to suicide. So, people need to get the help they need when they're very depressed. So suicide doesn't seem like the best option, or I don't think suicide's ever the best option. That's the wrong word. The only option. The people who end up dying by suicide truly feel that's the only option they have left. And we need to get to the point where that's just not on the table, and that we know how to help our loved ones. So what can you do to help end the stigma? So first and foremost, if you're comfortable and you have a story, share your story. Be open about it. It has not caused me any harm to be so open. So hopefully it won't for you, but share your story. If you're not comfortable sharing it publicly, share it with your friends and family or those that you know. Or if you know somebody who is struggling with a similar mental illness that you have struggled with, share it with them. It's amazing how much you empower somebody. Discuss mental health like you do any other topic. Just bring it up in conversation. Read up on the news stories and discuss it so it becomes a topic of conversation that people are having. Encourage and support your friends and family who you know struggle with a mental illness or live with mental illness. If you have a friend or family member who lives with depression or anxiety and you don't, you can still support them by asking them, hey, how's your depression been? Have you been feeling pretty good? You know, what can I do to help you? You want to take a walk? You know, if they're struggling, say, okay, let's take a walk. I'm coming over with dinner. There's so many things you can do to help people when they're struggling. And I'll do another video on that. Don't use words such as crazy, wacko, nut job to describe people who have a mental illness or appear to have a mental illness, right? A lot of times you can run into people in stores, or I know in Orlando we do have a high number of homeless here where I live, and there's this one woman who definitely is schizophrenic, has schizophrenia, and is not on medication, and I try to talk to her, but she is very paranoid. So just try to be kind to others and don't describe them as the crazy lady on the corner, that kind of thing. Words do a lot of damage. Fight for more resources wherever you can. Vote for resources. I know we just had election day, but if there's ever anything on the ballot pro mental health, vote for it. And talk to your local schools about getting resources there if your kids are in school or wherever you are. And then educate yourself on mental health. Read books, read blog articles, watch YouTube videos, watch TED Talks. There's so much out there that you can gain information and gain knowledge, because knowledge is power. And the more we know, the more changes we can make, right? And the more you can support not only yourself, but those around you who might be living with mental illness and be struggling at certain times. So, and then you can be an advocate for society to end the stigma. So, my dream is to end the stigma of mental health in our society and to get everybody to be comfortable with sharing their story. So, I'm looking, as I get this channel on the ground, of sharing other people's stories here. So if you have a story, feel free to reach out to me on my blog, endingstigmatogether.com, and you can send me an email at dbrady1021@yahoo.com, and let me know what your story is, and we can maybe schedule a time. But in the meantime, let's do our part in ending the stigma, because we can save lives by ending the stigma, and that's our goal. Have a great day.